So is there any observational support for the Big Bang?
Well, the Big Bang came about through astronomers making observations, but with a perspective, a philosophical bias, if you like, that they were looking for mechanisms of explanation which excluded God. So back in the early 1900s, I think it was 1916 or thereabouts, Vesto Slipher discovered that galaxies had their spectra shifted towards the red end of the spectrum. Now, that doesn't mean they were red, it just means that the spectra was slightly shifted that way. Now, he interpreted that as possibly due to recession, like Doppler shift. In 1929, Edwin Hubble observed that the further away galaxies were, the more they were redshifted. So he interpreted that as meaning they were receding from us faster and faster. So you get this picture of an expanding universe. Now, interestingly, Hubble didn't like what he was seeing, because in every direction that he looked, he saw the same phenomenon, these receding galaxies, which implied that the Earth was somehow or other in a favoured or special location at or near the centre. And he actually said this is an unwelcome supposition and must be opposed at all costs, which is, I guess, revealing of his philosophical position. Because, of course, if the Earth is special, then that suggests that maybe there's a creator out there and we're in a special place. And if there's a creator, well, maybe we might be called to account to that creator. Mm. So he simply didn't like what he was finding. And so he pushed back on that and he said, I believe that the universe will look the same no matter where you are within the universe on a large enough scale. Or another way of saying it is, the Earth is not special and everyone must see the universe alike. Now, this has a name now. It's called the cosmological principle. But I think the simplest way to sum it up is to say they believe the Earth is not special.
Okay. Does the Big Bang correctly explain, then, some of the observations that we make, the things we see in the universe today?
Well, we're told that it does, but there are many, many things, in fact, where the Big Bang fails to explain the observations. And so what happens is, because there's a philosophical commitment to a naturalistic explanation, various sort of rescue hypotheses get proposed to try and patch up the bits where the Big Bang doesn't really quite work. And we'll talk about some of those in a little while. But I don't think that it really adequately describes what we observe at all. In fact, most recently, as you opened, the findings of the James Webb Space Telescope were a complete shock to the Big Bang community. It was not what they were expecting to see.
Can you tell us about some of those discoveries and why they weren't expecting them?
Absolutely. So the James Webb Space Telescope is it's a $10 billion telescope, an extraordinary project. Brilliant engineering, I might add. It's designed to work more in the infrared parts of the spectrum, which enables it to see beyond the visible part of the electromagnetic spectrum and to see galaxies that are so shifted in spectra that they would be very, very remote. In fact, in the Big Bang model, that would represent galaxies formed at the earliest stages of the history of the universe. And it's a very clever design. It actually orbits the sun, not the Earth, but in the same time that it takes the Earth to orbit. And it sits at a place called the Lagrange point, number 2, and it's a gravitationally stable location. It actually orbits that location so that the Earth is always between it and the sun, so it doesn't ever get blinded by the light of the sun. And it points these very sensitive infrared instruments at the remotest parts of the universe. So very early in the Big Bang, gravity would not have had, or should not have had, enough time to draw all of this material that had formed from the initial energy and that singularity that commenced it into large, highly structured galaxies like our Milky Way. So they expected to find indistinct, fairly small, fuzzy blobs of stars, not high structure with spiral arms and central bars and all this sort of thing. But to their astonishment, they found massive, highly structured galaxies, and even fairly recently reported a supermassive black hole that is 10 times the size of the black hole at the centre of our Milky Way galaxy.
Can you explain what a black hole is, Mark? Because I've heard that question many times before. Do they even exist? What are they?
Well, a black hole is where there is so much matter within this very small region that the gravitational field around it is so intense that not even light can escape it. So surrounding every black hole is what's called an event horizon, and anything that passes through that event horizon disappears into the black hole and cannot be seen. Now, various complicated physics tells us that they radiate and so on, so they can be detected. Very real, quite amazing phenomena. But they involve the accretion of a massive amount of mass. So you can't have a supermassive black hole at the outer edges of the universe where there hasn't been enough time for gravity to aggregate all of that material. Consequently, it flies directly in the face of the Big Bang model. You also haven't got enough time for those highly structured elliptical galaxies to form. So it really was quite sensational. One astronomer reported that he lay awake at night wondering if all he'd been doing for all these years was wrong.
Wow.
Pretty good question. Maybe it is. But the point is, you see, that they begin with a fundamental assumption, and that is that there's no God, and they try to use naturalistic processes to explain the universe. And it really doesn't work well.
Yeah, it sounds like with each discovery that the James Webb is making, there's not enough time for that to be present or the way that it is.
Yes, that's right.